Most sports fans know why they've turned off ESPN. Look at how they covered Caitlin Clark for 3 years, turning one of the biggest success stories in the history of women's athletics, certainly, maybe in all of athletic history, into something totally different. The more Caitlin Clark changes women's basketball, the more ESPN can't get out of their own way with their dumb racial DEI bullshit. Here it is, Bobby Barack, for a network that claims to want to grow conversation around the WNBA. No company struggles.
The visceral fury in Dan Dakich's voice cuts through the noise like a knife. For 3 years, he's watched ESPN systematically dismantle the most transformative figure in women's basketball history, Caitlin Clark. And now, after Alyssa Thomas's fist connected with Caitlin Clark's throat, after Monica McNutt dismissed the attack as standard rookie hazing, after the WNBA handed out a laughable one-game suspension, it's over. The dam has broken. The rage has been simmering since Caitlin Clark entered the league, shattering attendance records and single-handedly dragging the WNBA into mainstream relevance. Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA, she revolutionized it. She turned arenas that were half-empty into sold-out spectacles. She turned a league that was hemorrhaging money into a billion-dollar conversation. Caitlin Clark made players like Alyssa Thomas relevant by simply existing on the same court. And how has the establishment repaid her? With a fist to the throat. With ESPN talking heads claiming Caitlin Clark isn't even a top 4 guard. With Monica McNutt, a supposed analyst, arguing that Caitlin Clark's popularity is purely racial. That young white girls favor Caitlin Clark on grounds that have nothing to do with her generational talent. The attacks on Caitlin Clark have been relentless, coordinated, and most damningly tolerated. From the Indiana Fever front office to the league commissioner to the sports media's crown jewel, Caitlin Clark has been left to fend for herself. No protection, no defense. Just the cold reality that in the post-George Floyd era, ESPN and the WNBA have decided that Caitlin Clark's success is an inconvenient truth to be managed, not celebrated. Dan Dakich is having none of it. And when Dan Dakich speaks, the sports world listens.
So I want to make sure that we're sort of clear on the nuance of the voting here, right? That's an important part of this. They didn't say that she was the 11th best guard in the WNBA. That's not what happened. As you mentioned, a lot of people didn't get ballots, a lot of people didn't vote, but what they did, they voted for the top 4 guards in the league. That was what the All-Star ballot was. So people were voting for top 4. I don't think that you can make a compelling argument that Caitlin Clark is a top 4 guard in the WNBA. Like, nobody can at this point.
David Dennis Jr., a man Dan Dakich describes as the most woke, idiotic hire at ESPN, has the audacity to claim Caitlin Clark isn't a top 4 guard. Let's be clear, Caitlin Clark is second in the league in assists. Caitlin Clark is 4th in points per game. Caitlin Clark's numbers don't just support her case, they obliterate any counterargument. But here's the thing about the David Dennis Jr. of the world, they didn't arrive at their positions through merit. They are DEI hires, Dan Dakich argues, and that's not about race, it's about competence. David Dennis Jr. has never been in a locker room, he's never coached, he's never played. He has zero basketball credibility, yet ESPN puts him on air to dissect Caitlin Clark's standing in the league because he checks a box. Monica McNutt, who actually did play, should know better. Yet Monica McNutt has argued that Caitlin Clark's embellishment is why Alyssa Thomas's fist ended up on Caitlin Clark's throat. Let that sink in. Monica McNutt victim-blamed Caitlin Clark for getting punched in the throat. Monica McNutt accused young white girls of favoring Caitlin Clark on racial grounds, as if Caitlin Clark's 20.8 assist averages aren't reason enough to become a fan. The long-term strategic consequences are catastrophic. The WNBA has a generational talent in Caitlin Clark, and instead of protecting Caitlin Clark, the league is enabling her abusers. Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. Caitlin Clark is the reason the WNBA is now a topic of conversation at all. And the league's response to Alyssa Thomas putting her hands on Caitlin Clark, a slap on the wrist, a one-game vacation, a statement that says, Caitlin Clark, your safety is negotiable.
Really don't. I don't know what to tell you. That's what a guard is supposed to do. Now, you can always couch something the way you want to couch it. Well, you know, she's hurt. Okay. Well, you know, her team isn't. Okay. But there is a way, you complete dipshit, DEI dumbass, never been in a locker room other than to sneak a peek guy. It's right there. And when's the last time Paige Beckers had somebody at her throat? When's the last time Paige Beckers got knocked from behind on her ass and in
When Alyssa Thomas punched Caitlin Clark in the throat, the entire black lesbian bench jumped up and down and cheered. That's not sportsmanship. That's not competitive fire. That's an army of jealous, bitter individuals who can't handle that Caitlin Clark is more talented, more successful, and more beloved than they will ever be. And ESPN enables it. Monica McNutt, Chiny Ogwumike, and their ilk are given platforms to attack Caitlin Clark because attacking Caitlin Clark fits the network's movement. It's not about basketball, it's about identity. It's about ensuring that Caitlin Clark, despite all evidence to the contrary, is never allowed to be the face of the league without a fight.
But Paige Bueckers, I'm sorry to say it, folks, but everything we expected Caitlin Clark to be, Paige Bueckers has been in the WNBA. You heard it from me.
Seems like the opponents like her better than Caitlin Clark. Did I say that loud? Bad Freddie. Bad Freddie as far as that goes.
Well, the other guy there, Freddie Coleman, is the most nondescript dude ever at ESPN. And I like Freddie. I always have. I don't think he's that big a dipshit. Really? So Paige Bueckers?
Harry Douglas at ESPN argued that Paige Bueckers is everything Caitlin Clark was supposed to be. Let's check the math. Caitlin Clark averages 5 points and 8 assists. Paige Bueckers averages less in both categories. Caitlin Clark sells out every single arena she visits. Paige Bueckers doesn't. When Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, the Fever went from 2 consecutive years with the #1 pick to a playoff team. When Paige Bueckers arrived at her franchise, crickets. Harry Douglas is full of Dan Dakich says, like every DEI hire at ESPN. But here's the bottom line, Caitlin Clark is not a controversy. Caitlin Clark is not a movement. Caitlin Clark is a basketball player, the best female basketball player on the planet. And the league's inability to protect Caitlin Clark, the media's willingness to tear Caitlin Clark down, and the Fever front office's refusal to defend Caitlin Clark have created a perfect storm. Caitlin Clark could leave. Caitlin Clark could go to Europe. Caitlin Clark could start her own league and make the WNBA irrelevant. And if that happens, everyone who enabled this, Alyssa Thomas, Monica McNutt, Stephanie White, Kathy Engelbert, ESPN, the Fever front office will have blood on their hands. The attack on Caitlin Clark was brutal. The response has been shameful. And if the WNBA doesn't get its act together, Caitlin Clark's greatness will be a cautionary tale about how a league destroyed its own future to appease a toxic culture. The verdict is in, Dan Dakich is right. ESPN and the WNBA have created a monster, a movement masquerading as sports. Caitlin Clark deserves better. She deserves protection. She deserves respect. She deserves to be treated like the generational talent she is. Instead, Caitlin Clark is targeted, vilified, and left to fend for herself while the Alyssa Thomases of the world get a one-game vacation for literal assault. It's over. The narrative is clear. The evidence is overwhelming. And if you still think Caitlin Clark is the problem, if you still think Caitlin Clark brought this on herself, you're as delusional as the DEI hires defending the indefensible. Here's the question for you. Do you think ESPN's coverage of Caitlin Clark is fair, or has the network's post-George Floyd movement corrupted their analysis? Drop your take in the comments. Let's settle this once and for all.